It's Radio Free 501c, the podcast of Rogue Tulips Consulting. I'm your host, Cecilia Sapp, and we're so excited to be back for Season 6 and continue bringing you outstanding ideas and thought leaders and different ways of thinking. So don't forget to subscribe because you're not going to want to miss any of it. This week I'm joined by returning guest Gail Kulp of the CAE Foundation. She just steered her organization through their first virtual conference, and she's here to share her big wins and lessons. Welcome to episode 237. Hey everybody, it's Monday, April 22nd, and that means it's time for another episode of Radio Free 501c, brought to you by Rogue Tulips Consulting. I'm your host, Cecilia Sapp. Yes, this week I actually remembered to introduce myself. Thanks for joining us, and we're so glad to be celebrating Earth Day with my returning guest, Gail Kulp. So we're going to talk a little bit about Earth Day in our conversation, but before we jump in, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening to our audience, wherever you may be on this wonderful earth of ours. This week, I'm so glad to have returning guest, Gail Kulp from the CAE Foundation, and she's going to tell us about putting together her first virtual conference. But before we jump into that topic, Gail, welcome back. Would you like to say hello to the audience and tell us a little about yourself?
Hi, Cecilia. I really am glad to be here. Thanks again. This is really great to be back on the podcast. And I am the executive director of the CAE Foundation. And the CAE Foundation is a 501c3 nationwide nonprofit organization. And we're dedicated to eliminating preventable boating accidents. So we want to keep people safe on the water. And we do that with our education tools and resources.
Well, and Earth Day is a great day to be talking about the CAE Foundation and what it does to help people with education and providing things like free life jackets. Well, not free to keep, but free to use. So what are some other things about Earth Day that we should keep in mind about our shared waters on our planet?
One of the tips that we always tell people is pack your own trash out. Keep a bag or a bucket in your boat so that you can put all of the trash in it. And if you see trash in the waterways that you're able to get, add that to it as well. Everybody's got to share the waterways. And if we do not take care of it, it won't be there for us later on, especially for the marine life. So we want to make sure that that trash definitely comes out of the water.
Hey, that is a great tip. I know I always take my trash with me no matter where I go. I try not to make too much trash either. But it kind of reminds me of, I don't know if people remember Woodsy the Owl, give a hoot, don't pollute. Great thing to remember here on Earth Day. But as much as we love planet Earth and what the CAE Foundation does to help us all on the water and be safe, we're actually here to talk about virtual conferences. And CAE Foundation just held their first one. So Gail, what was the motivation to have a virtual conference?
Well, we have life jacket loaner stations, and we actually have the largest life jacket loaner program in the world with over 1,300 life jacket loaner stations that people can borrow and return life jackets free of charge, just like the one behind me. And when we had about 850 of them, we realized that trying to conduct conversations and information with all of them was getting more and more difficult. So we proposed to the Coast Guard with a grant proposal that we would conduct a virtual conference so that all of them could attend, and they agreed. They thought that was a great idea. So we started the planning process and were able to hold that.
And how long did this conference last?
It was just 3 days, and it was actually 3 half days. So when we started the planning process, we reached out to all the loaner station hosts that we were aware of at the time and asked them for some details. And that helped us set up the curriculum, set up some information that we were going to share, as well as we found out what days of the week were more interesting for them. They wanted the middle of the week, not Monday or Friday or the weekend. Mm-hmm. And they also said that they really didn't have full days to give. They only had partial days. So we did it from 1 to 4:30 Eastern time, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday.
Wow, that's a great schedule, by the way, because I've tried doing all-day virtual conferences as an attendee, and it's exhausting. So I think doing half days is great. So as you were putting this together, now you mentioned you had some grant funding. So did you have to work with other contractors outside your team?
Yes, we did. We actually spent about 1.5 years doing research. So it started about 16 months out, and I was looking first for different companies that could host the platform virtually. And it could be set up as a website, registration, just everything that we would need. And I probably looked at least a dozen of them.
Wow.
and ended up finally deciding on the last few, and then we're able to talk to them in person at the ASIE conference last year.
Oh, that's fantastic. So you actually got to meet with them.
Yeah.
And so what sort of and I know you may not want to say what company you went with, but feel free to if you'd like. But what were some of the aspects of the platform that you chose that you really liked that attracted you and said, "Oh yeah, this is the one we want."
We ended up going with EVA. Sometimes they're called EVA, but
Mhm.
EVA Event Tech. And we wanted a group that could do gamification. So we wanted some sort of incentive for people to kind of be participating and earning points. We also wanted to be able to have exhibit booths because we wanted to have sponsors and exhibitors. Again, we wanted them to take care of the registration because we didn't want to have them register on our platform and then be moved over to another place so that they would be confused that there would be two places. And we wanted them to host the website for the event. So have it all look like it was all seamless in one place.
Oh, that's excellent. So did it have any other extras? I'm going to call them extras, like avatars or things like that, or did people just come in with their own photo?
They could come in with their own photo. And in fact, if they uploaded a photo, they got points in the gamification system. So some people kept their letter and the little icon of their face, like black and white. But other people uploaded photos, and there were people that uploaded multiple photos over the course of the conference so that they could earn even more points. But that was exciting. And there was a way that they could chat with each other. There was live as well as option of having recorded presentations as well. So we wanted everything to look seamless.
Oh, that's a great sounds like a great conference platform. So check that out, everybody, if you're looking to do one. So here's a question we get asked a lot whenever we do any sort of a virtual meeting. Is it going to be recorded? Now, you just mentioned some recordings. Did you record the entire conference in case people couldn't make it, or were those recorded sessions that were integrated into the schedule?
Both. There was one session each day that we called the panel presentations with life jacket loaner station hosts. And each one had between 5 and 7 different groups that host a loaner station all around the country. And we knew that their time trying to find them all at the same time during the online conference live would have been difficult. So we scheduled something that would work with them and then recorded it. And we did it a few weeks out. So those that were available to be live were available after the presentation aired, and then they were there for Q&A and some of the networking that we had. Otherwise, all the other sessions were live, 100%, and everything except for the networking tables was recorded. So there was about 3 hours of content, 3.5 hours of content each day. So there's now 10 hours of content available until the end of May for anybody to log on and check out.
Oh, that's excellent. Now, what if somebody didn't register for the conference initially when it happened? Can they pay a fee to watch the recordings?
Yes, after the Life Jacket Loaner Station conference ended, we had the after effect that they could watch the recording, and it was just $10. So when we originally set up the registration, early bird was 20 and regular rate was 30. We didn't want to charge too much because all of these people are volunteers for the Life Jacket Loaner program, but many of them are state park rangers or federal U.S. Coast Guard, U.S. Army Corps of Engineers rangers. Some of them are law enforcement. So they're doing lots of other things and helping the community in lots of other ways. So we definitely wanted to keep it at a reasonable amount that if their organization or agency couldn't pay for it and they needed to do so out of pocket, it wasn't going to be a huge amount. But we wanted to make sure that they'd still be interested in attending and participate. So having a little bit had some stake in the game.
Well, that's great. You've mentioned gamification. You already mentioned you had networking tables that were not recorded, but were there some other networking events that were part of your conference? Like sometimes people do happy hours and they mail people boxes. I don't know if you did that, but
We did not do happy hours, but we did mail for the first 100 registrants. They got a notebook and a neat mug that had all the logos of the sponsors on it so that they could have a cool drink by them. And it fits in the cup holders of a boat, so that's even better. And we had lots of chances for them to talk with the exhibitors as well. We had an exhibit booth time each day. so that they could go in and talk to them or talk with each other.
Wow, that's great. So you also had a virtual exhibit hall built into this 3-day conference.
Yes.
And this was your first one. It sounds awesome. It sounds like
Well,
you've been doing it for years.
thank you.
So you're welcome. Well, let's talk about some of the other things on the background. You said it took you about 16 months of planning to, get everything organized, make decisions, figure out how you're going to do it, who is going to present. So, what were some challenges that you came up against as you were planning?
One of the biggest challenges is we're just a staff of two. So it's myself and Kim, and we do everything. So we couldn't devote all 16 months of the time just to planning the conference, but we're glad that we had that much time. And I took care of finding sponsors and guest speakers and setting up the schedule. Kim helped with the graphics and photos for the website and building all that. And then as we were getting closer in the last couple months, we were both working on reaching out to the Learner Station hosts, letting them know about the event, setting up the final curriculum, and we even made presentations each day of the conference. So we did some little we called it the update from the CETO Foundation. So we were able to use about a half hour each day to update the attendees on other programs that we have, as well as some of the resources and tools that we have that they may not be aware of for the Life Jacket Loaner program.
Wow, that is amazing. So, you did all that in just 16 months in between all your other work with two staff and one grant. That is amazing.
Yeah.
That is incredible. So, do you think because you're a small staff, you're more focused?
I think so. We're both very good at time management. And you kind of have to be when you have multiple balls that you have to juggle, so to speak. So there were definitely things that we could have done better and things that we learned that we didn't even know existed. I attended lots of virtual conferences during COVID, so I at least had that experience, but it was still a very different thing to be on the host side than the attendee side.
That is really incredible. Well, congratulations on a successful conference. Those are
Thank
very
you.
hard to pull off
Thanks.
in person or virtual, but I think
Yeah.
especially virtual. That is great. So now, as a 501(c)(3), you're not a membership association, but you have supporters and donors and people in your community. So, have you seen any effect on your reputation after this virtual conference? Have you seen more donations come in? Have you seen more people wanting to learn more or get involved? So, what's been the impact post conference?
Well, we had people from 40 different states and territories attend. And so that was one of the huge takeaways that we were able to touch people in places that we have not had a chance to talk to before. We do have Life Jacket Loaner stations in all 50 states and in a few of the territories. But our application for new life jackets was just released right around April 1st. So it was about a month after the conference ended. And we had new groups that had attended the conference and were excited to start using some of the tools. We had other groups that didn't get a chance to attend the conference because they didn't make a time to do it, but we provided them with a coupon code so that they can attend the conference right now when it's recorded and get some additional information. And hopefully that'll help them out as they're setting up a new loaner station.
Wow. And so you're going to have a continuing ripple effect impact from this conference. So do you think you're going to do it again?
That's the big question. We have a lot of people asking and they're excited about it. And we would definitely like to do it. We just need to figure out how we could do the funding because the host platform, having a website to host it, was the most expensive part. And so if we were to do it again, we may only do a 1 day, or we may look at doing something that we could limit the amount of the host website for it unless we get some more funding. So we also found out that we ended up needing a second platform for the Zoom techs. So didn't even know that that was a thing, but it turned out to be very helpful.
So there's some back end information that you have learned. Is there any other back end stuff you learned about putting this together?
Um, right now, the other thing we learned was about sponsorships and needing to make sure that we spend a lot more time on building out sponsorships. We ended up having 3 sponsors. I was kind of hoping for more, but we ended up looking back. I started to solicit the sponsors about the same time as our registration opened. And I would have, looking back, it should have been about 6 months before registration opened and really let them go ahead and do that. But we wanted to make sure the website was sort of built out a little bit so that they'd have something to actually look at and know where their registration was going and where their booth was going to be and all of that.
Well, but that's a lesson learned, right? You don't know
Exactly.
everything till you do it the first time.
Totally. And I mean, it's still a success. And you say, hey, next time we're going to do this.
Yes. Yes. And that's the great thing of doing it.
Mhm.
This sounds like, though, for a first time conference, this sounds awesome, well thought out, very successful. So if there's anybody out there who'd be interested in talking to Gail about sponsoring a future CETO Foundation conference, look her up because she knows what she's doing. This is great. So what other things did you hope to achieve with your conference, if any? I mean, it sounds like you achieved pretty much all of, the initial goals, but were there any other goals that you had hoped to achieve with this conference? And did you reach those?
We felt like we reached a large portion of the audiences. We had an evaluation that we did as a survey monkey at the end of each day, and then we did a post-conference survey as well. And the results were really good. People really enjoyed the content. Those that couldn't see all of it because they got pulled away were excited to be able to know that they could go back and check it out later. And they really felt like information was great, especially the learning that other groups were going through the same struggles as them or had gone through that struggle but figured a way out. And you could see light bulbs going off. It was great.
Well, do you have a ongoing online community for your supporters?
Uh, we do, but it's mostly through Facebook and Instagram. So we don't really have something set up otherwise. But we have thought about doing, even if we could just do some of the panel presentations and get some more frequently asked questions that other hosts had and just record some of them. And hey, we have one question for you. How did you manage to get your life jackets clean? My life jackets keep getting dirty. And so a group could easily answer that.
Oh, that is a great idea. I know that adults learn from sharing their own experience, and also, you made an excellent point. We all like to know we're not the only one facing a situation or trying to answer a question or solve a problem, and finding out other people, even if they don't have the answer, we're all in the same boat. Sticking
Yep,
with the CETO Foundation theme. So we're all in the same boat here
we
together.
are.
So let's try to figure it out. That's great. So were there any other ahas or unexpected things that you had to deal with while you were planning your conference?
One of them that we kind of figured out almost at the last minute was that we would need to recruit some help. With the networking tables that we set up, originally we had thought that they would be 6 separate groups so that we'd record them and then we could go back and watch them and take notes and see if there was anybody that still had questions that weren't being answered, because it was a time for everybody to have some FaceTime, turn on their cameras, turn on their microphones, and actually talk to each other. But the way the Zoom text told us was that they couldn't do 6 separate rooms. It would be one room or one link with 6 separate rooms within that link. So
Oh,
they couldn't be recorded. And so in order to get information on how they were going, we recruited help. So we asked our board members and our advisory council members to sit in, and they were about 40 minutes each. So basically, could you donate 40 minutes of your time one of the 3 days of the conference? And they really got a lot out of it. We had some board members that were really excited about it and got a lot of information that they didn't even know about. I didn't even know you were doing that. So it was really neat. It was a good touch point. But at the same time, we would change out how we did the networking table. We had done 6 different topics, but kept the topics the same each of the 3 days. And we think going forward, if we were to do that again, we would do maybe 3 topics and then 3 different topics on day 2 and 3 different topics on day 3, because 6 was just, it was decision paralysis. People couldn't decide which one to go to. And we tried to tell them, you choose one today, you can choose a different one tomorrow, but it still was confusing, and there were a couple rooms that we didn't have too many people in, and then there were rooms that had 25 people in them. So it was just each day was different.
Wow. Well, that's really well. So, what advice might you have for another small staff association? And I'm going to focus this on small staffs because it's a different way of working. It's a different approach. You have to think about things differently than if you're a mid-size or larger staff. So, what advice might you have for a small staff nonprofit organization when they're trying to do a virtual conference in the future?
The big thing that Kim and I do is we take something and we know when the date it's due. And then we go backwards and we say, okay, 1 week out, we want to be able to do this. 2 weeks out, we want to be able to. And so we just keep backing the calendar back until we know, okay, this is where it needs to start. And hopefully you've started yourself early enough that you have plenty of time to do that.
So don't rush. Don't
Yes.
don't try to cram it all in
Mhm.
at once. And I think that's great advice. I think that's how a lot of us plan things. At least that's how I try to plan. No, I do plan things that way because you have to be able to build that whole project out and then
Yep.
make sure people understand when they might have a deadline. Like if you have a speaker or a sponsor and when do you need things from them and staying on top of that. And that's really a lot of details to
Oh
juggle.
yeah. And I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. That it was definitely the crunch time the last month, and we were feeling the pressure, and oh, I wish we had another month. I wish. And I mean, I think it's always going to be like that, and I don't think we'll ever not experience that.
Yeah.
But I think that's normal, and we expected that the last few weeks would be crazy. Um, in
Yeah.
hindsight, I ended up having surgery the week and a half before, so I still had stitches during the conference. I would not do that again,
Yeah,
ever.
I would not. I definitely would not. I would like move that to after the conference.
Mhm.
That's interesting. And it's kind of funny. You were talking about those last few weeks of pressure right before a conference. And when I was on staff and working, getting ready, to do my part for the conference, I was usually part of a bigger team getting a conference
Yeah.
ready. I realized at one point it's sort of like the five stages of grief, when right before conference time, but they're the five stages of conference planning where you go from anger and negotiating to acceptance. It's like if it's not done the day before you're leaving or launching, it didn't need to be done. But all that
Exactly.
time you're bargaining, you're praying, you're asking, you're hoping you're getting angry. But then it all works out in the end. And it
It
sounds
does.
like yours worked out beautifully.
Yes. And we even had a hiccup. One of our speakers ended up not being able to attend, and we had to have somebody step in their place from the same organization. So at least that was helpful, but it was with like 3 hours warning. So I reached out to that person. I said, give me a headshot and like 3 sentences so I can update a speaker profile for you. And I was creating it on the fly, and but
Oh
it
my
all
God.
worked.
That's what makes our work interesting and exciting, though, right?
Yeah. One of the neat things our Zoom techs did, though, the Zoom tech was through Falcon Events,
Mhm.
and they created a green room. So all of our speakers went to a green room before they came into the main room where all the attendees were.
Mhm.
And that green room checked out their microphones, their cameras, their lighting, made sure everything was working okay, checked their slides if they were running their own slides. And once everything was okay, they were in there for a good half hour. But once everything was okay, then they were moved over to the main room. And that prevented a lot of questions and concerns because you never know when it's live, somebody's computer could decide to update.
Oh my gosh, that actually happened to me earlier this month. I was on a panel for AWTC, which is Association Women Technology Champions. If you're in the audience and not familiar with AWTC, and for some reason my internet kept freezing up at while it's a real time. It wasn't recorded, it was real time, and I had to
Oh,
keep signing out, signing back in, and missing part of the conversation. It all worked out in the end, like things usually do, but it was very frustrating because I was missing parts of the conversation that I maybe needed to hear to, intelligently participate. So I am so glad that they recommended a green room for the speakers because that makes such a big difference.
it was huge. And we also got copies of everybody's slides so that if their computer glitched, we could take over with the slides and have it on one of our computers. So they may still have sound and camera and everything like that, but their computer may have glitched. So we could do that.
And I think that is something, most of the time I do get asked for a copy of my slides for that reason, or
Mhm.
maybe they're using an AV department at a hotel meeting room or something. But,
Yeah.
that is a really important thing to remember to ask for. Uh, make sure you get that copy of the slides for that reason, because you could always run them for them.
And then
Uh,
we also made a PDF of the slides that we had as a handout so that attendees could have those after the fact, that if they watched it and then want to go back and get a copy of the slides, or they want to get any of the handouts that the speaker had, everything was available.
Well, Gail, this has been just a wonderful conversation, wonderful overview of your experience with your first virtual conference. And again, kudos and congratulations on a job well done.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome. It sounds like you did an awesome job, not just with the planning, but with the execution. And that is so important. So, as we're wrapping up, because I know virtual conferences, we're out of lockdown, of course, for a long time now, but people are still doing them because they're realizing more people can engage by being able to participate virtually. And with you having people in all 50 states that are volunteers, having a successful virtual model is key. So, what would be the one thought you would like the audience to take away today? And then, how could they get in touch with you if they maybe wanted to have a conversation about virtual conference planning?
Sure. My one thought to take away is that old adage, failure to plan is planning to fail. Just take the time, really line it out, decide exactly what you need to do, and do your research. Don't be afraid to ask the hard questions and ask for demos. And then if you have any questions, want to get in touch with me, check out our website, boatingsafety.com, and you can click on the contact us, and that email goes straight to me.
Oh, that's great because, if you're in the audience thinking about a virtual conference, or maybe you want to up your game on your current virtual conferences, or even just make your webinars a little better, sounds to me like you should talk to Gail and learn from her experience. So, uh, this has been a great conversation, Gail. Love having you back. Hope you can come back. I know you're probably going to do something else equally awesome in the future,
Well,
and we'll
thank you.
have to talk about it.
Yeah,
So, and I do encourage everyone, if you have some interest in boating or water safety or keeping our waterways clean, check out the CETO Foundation and see if they would be somebody you might want to make a donation to. I have donated in the past myself, so not asking you to do anything I haven't done. But check them out. They have great information, and you can learn a lot from their website, especially if you like to go boating once in a while in the warm weather.
definitely. Well, thank you so much, Cecilia, and I look forward to seeing you at ASIE this year.
Yes, I've already booked my hotel and registered. I just need a plane ticket at this point. So hopefully I can find one.
I got the hotel. I just need to register.
That's right. Oh, great. So, we're in simpatico then because we're both
Sounds great.
in process here. So that's great. Yeah, I'm looking forward. We'll have to look each other up there.
Will do.
So excellent. So, well, we have to go rogue for now, but thanks for joining us. We'll be back next week with another exciting episode. So don't forget to subscribe or follow us on your favorite podcast service. If you would like to know more about Rogue Tulips Consulting and how we can help your organization bloom outside the box, check out our newly revamped website, which also includes our education program, and that's at roguetulips.com. Let us be a catalyst for change and success at your organization. So thanks again for joining us. And on behalf of Gail and myself, we'll see you next time.